Hello everyone, how are you today? Welcome to Tall Tales with Alex, your gateway into a universe of adventure and discovery. It's so great to have you with me for today's journey. We're going to use our imaginations today, so get ready to think up all kinds of amazing things. Maybe you could keep using your imagination to do some drawings of our adventure today. I'd love to see what you create. To the parents, guardians and teachers, you can find me at Tall Tales Alex on Twitter and Tall Tales with Alex on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to be the first to find out when a new story has been uploaded. Now, let's dive into a world of imagination. Today, we're on another adventure with River and his monkey friend. Can you remember his name? That's right, it's... How many times can you say really fast? Let's give it a try. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Whew, that was a lot of times. Right, let's use our imaginations. River woke up with only one thing on his mind: going to the playground. Last time they went, had been very brave. He had climbed all the way up to the very top of the tallest slide and whizzed down the slide even though he was scared. River was very impressed by how fast scurried up the spider's web of ropes. He wanted to be able to climb that well too. So he got out of bed and he got dressed. He chose one of his favourite tops. It was really cool. It was grey with a big star in the middle. If you rubbed your hand upwards on the star, it made it sparkle a bright green, but if you rubbed your hand downwards on it, it hid all the sparkles. It looked really magical. He put the rest of his clothes on and made his way downstairs to go and find... When he arrived downstairs, he found his Dada in the kitchen looking after River's little brother, Ezra. "Hello, Dada." "Hello, Ezra," he said. River's Dada turned around to him and said, "Good morning, River," while Ezra let out a little gurgle. To an adult, it would have just sounded like a funny little noise, but River and Ezra had a special connection and understood each other perfectly. So River knew that what Ezra really meant was, "Hello, River. How lovely to see you. You're looking very well this morning. My, what a lovely day." River walked over to the baby bouncer that Ezra was rocking in and gave his little brother a big hug. "Yes, it's a very lovely day," he replied. River and Ezra's Dada looked down at them and gave a little smile. "That's nice of you to give your brother a hug. But it might be a little while until he can understand what we're saying," said Dada. But River knew that Ezra understood them perfectly, so he gave Ezra a little wink, and Ezra gave a little wink back. "Excuse me, Dada, could I please have a banana for breakfast?" asked River. Dada looked down at him and said, "Well, I was going to make some breakfast soon, but seeing as you asked so politely, I think that's okay." And he picked a banana from the bunch in the fruit bowl and passed it down to him. River had actually wanted the banana for who he could see through the window up in the tree waving at him. So he asked his Dada, "I'm actually feeling really rather hungry this morning. Do you think I might be able to have 2 bananas for breakfast?" Dada looked down at River surprised. "2 bananas?" he asked. "You're eating a lot of bananas lately. Anyone would think you were hiding a monkey somewhere in the house." "Oh, no, there's no monkeys in the house," said River, which was technically correct, because there wasn't a monkey in the house. It was in the tree in the garden. Swung down from his branch to greet River.
"Good morning, River. Oh, is that banana there that I see? Is it for me?"
"It is, and I brought one for myself. I thought we could eat breakfast together." Was delighted and gave River a big smile.
"That sounds splendid."
So River passed one of the bananas and they went behind the tree. They sat down on the grass and River began to unpeel his banana. Ripped his one open and was about to throw it into his mouth when River stopped him. "Wait a moment. Don't eat it so fast. You always chomp them down so fast. Have you ever taken the time to eat them slowly and properly enjoy your food?" Thought about this for a moment, He didn't think he had. Nobody had ever shown him how to eat. He'd always just been brought his food in a bucket. Whenever it arrived, he would just eat it all down in one go.
Food is brilliant. It fills us up and keeps us from feeling hungry. It also gives us all the things we need to keep our body healthy, as long as we eat the right things. But one of the best things about food is how good it tastes. If you're just swallowing the food down as quick as you can, then you're missing out on one of the very best things about it, said River.
This made a lot of sense to Prrrpt. He loved bananas. He loved the way they tasted. That was why he ate them so quickly. But if he ate them a little slower, then he would be able to make that taste last longer. So he took just a little bite from his banana and began to chew it. It tasted delicious. It didn't matter that Prrrpt had only taken a little bite. The flavour of the banana filled his whole mouth. As he chewed on it, the flavour stayed in his mouth.
Wow! It's even more delicious. I'd never realized that food could be so tasty.
River looked at him and said,
It's always been this tasty. You just hadn't taken the time to eat it slowly enough to find out.
The pair sat in silence as they ate their breakfast, taking time to savour every single bite. After a couple of minutes, they'd both finished their bananas. Seemed very happy.
That was the first time I've really enjoyed eating my food, he said. And would you believe it? I don't have a funny feeling in my tummy. That's new as well.
River was confused. What do you mean? He asked.
Well, normally I eat all my food as quick as I can, and then I have to lie down for a little bit because it makes my tummy feel bad.
River knew exactly what meant.
That's called tummy ache. You can get tummy aches for different reasons, but one of the reasons is when you eat your food too fast. From now on, if you eat your food slowly and take the time to enjoy it, you should be able to stop that tummy ache from happening.
Was very happy about that. Nobody likes a tummy ache, so he was going to make sure from now on he would eat his food a little slower.
So what shall we do today?
Asked.
Well,
said River,
I was wondering if you might be able to teach me how to climb really well.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'd love to try and teach you. I say, how about we go down to the playground to practice and we can knock on Layla's door along the way, said
River stood up, held out his hand and said,
Pass me your banana skin. I'll take them to Dada and let him know that we're going to see Layla. You climb around the side of the house and I'll meet you out front.
So gave him his banana skin and River ran inside.
Thank you for the bananas, Dada. They were really tasty. We're going to go and see Layla now,
said River as he began to make his way to the door. Hold on. Who's we? Asked Dada. River froze completely still.
Well, what do you mean?
He asked his Dada. Well, you just said, we are going to see Layla. Who's we? Were you out in the garden with someone? Dada replied. You don't mean Ezra, do you? River turned around very slowly and said,
Yes, Ezra. That's right. I was talking to Ezra, but obviously I was just being silly. I know Ezra's too little to come with me.
His Dada looked at him for a moment before saying, OK, but be safe and be back by lunchtime. Nana and Pa are coming round. River headed to the front door, put his shoes on and went outside. Was waiting for him, eager and excited.
Let's go! I can't wait to see Layla again.
They headed to Layla's bright yellow house with all the flowers outside. As they walked to the door, made sure to stop at every flower, peer inside and say,
Thank you!
To each and every bee for all the hard work they do for our planet. He made sure to do this to every bee he had seen since River told him about how important they are to the whole world. Layla greeted them at the front door. She was in a pair of dungarees again. She was pretty much always in a pair of dungarees. These ones were black and had cool white lightning bolts all over them.
Hello, Layla. How wonderful to see you again. We're heading down to the park to practice climbing. Would you like to come with us?
asked.
Absolutely, said Layla. I love climbing, and I bet there's lots I could learn about climbing from a monkey. Let's go!
So off the three of them went to the park, passing Alonzo the cat on the street corner, who nodded his head and gave them all a soft meow to say hello. Led them to the climbing ropes in the playground that crisscrossed like a giant spider's web.
This seems like a good place to start. There's lots of different bits to grab hold of and climb up. Once you've got good at this, then we could try climbing up a tree using the skills that you've learned. Now, watch me climb.
Rocketed up the ropes, quick as a flash. River was still amazed, even though he had seen climb lots of times. He turned to Layla, who was utterly blown away. She couldn't believe it.
Wow,
she said.
You moved so fast and smooth. You didn't stop once along the way. You started to climb and then you made it just look like one whole movement.
But here's the thing. I was thinking about all the little movements, just really, really fast. When you try something new, you have to try and figure out how to do it. Your brain has to think about what it's doing, but the next time you go to do it, you don't have to think so much. You still have to think a little, though. And then the next time after that, it'll get easier again and again and again, and eventually you'll become so comfortable doing it that you almost don't need to think at all. You'll get better and better. That's all practice really is, getting more and more comfortable at doing something. The difficult and sometimes scary thing is that to get in the comfortable place, you have to start somewhere that isn't quite so comfortable.
This made a lot of sense to River and Layla. Often, some of the things they were most scared of were just the things that they weren't so good at. Layla had a thought.
That sounds a bit like when I first started to sleep in the dark, she said. At first, I was scared when the lights went out, but then we got a nightlight, so the room was darker, but not completely dark. When I was comfortable with that, we turned the nightlight down and down and down until it was completely off. Now I don't sleep with the light at all. Each time we turned the nightlight down a little more, I felt nervous, but the more I did it, the less nervous I felt. After doing that for a while, I realised that there was nothing to be afraid of about the dark, and that was just about getting comfortable.
Gave Layla a big smile and nodded.
That's exactly right, he said. That was something you practiced and became good at, even though it seemed daunting and scary to do. Well done.
River stepped up to the ropes and looked up. If Layla had been brave enough to practice sleeping in the dark, then he could definitely be brave enough to practice climbing all the way to the top of this spider web. He looked up to and called out,
So what you're saying is that I need to focus on all the little things first, then as I get better at the little things, I won't have to think so much, and I can start to look at the bigger things.
Exactly that,
called back.
Take each little climb one at a time.
River reached out and grabbed hold of a rope. He stepped onto another that was down by his feet. He lifted himself up and reached out with his other hand to find another rope. One by one, hand after hand, foot after foot, he made his way further and further up and thought about all the little movements. But as he got higher and higher, he began to think about how the ground was getting further and further away. It was starting to get a bit scary, and as those scary thoughts began to come into his head, he began to think less and less about the little movements. Layla could see that River was looking a bit worried, so she called to him,
Don't worry, River. You've climbed up these ropes before. The only way you're going to get better at climbing is by practicing. This is just a little uncomfortable moment that I know you can get through.
River thought about Layla being brave in the dark in her room and decided to be brave too. He began to think about all the little movements again. One hand, then the next hand, one foot, then the next foot, over and over, and before he knew it, he was at the top of the ropes. He had made it.
Well done, River. You did so well. You moved through your worries and kept on going. You practiced the little things, and I could see you getting better and better as you got nearer the top. Now, if you whiz down this slide, you can go back to the bottom and start again. You'll still need to think about the little things, but you won't need to think about them quite as much as you did last time.
But River waited at the top of the slide.
After you,
He said.
Oh my,
Said,
I was worried you were going to say that.
River put his arm around.
don't worry. I know you're scared of the big slide, but this is just your uncomfortable place. Just like practicing at getting good at climbing, I think we need to practice at dealing with our fears. You might be scared of this slide now, but the more you do it, the less scary it will seem.
You're right, River, said. I've practiced so much at my climbing and become so good at it that I know I can practice at overcoming my fears. Here I go.
And he closed his eyes and whoosh! He slid down the slide with River following after. So River, Layla and practiced going up the ropes and down the slide, over and over. Each time would guide River and Layla, showing them where to put their hands and feet. And each time they would get better, and then Layla and River would help overcome his fear of the slide. They practiced over and over and over until they began to think about the little things less and less as they got better and better. And that was the story about how overcame his fear of slides and how River and Layla got really good at climbing. Thank you so much for joining me on that adventure. What was your favourite part of the story? I think my favourite part was when River understood exactly what his baby brother Ezra was saying. Did you enjoy using your imagination? Maybe you could use your imagination to draw something. I'd love to see what you make. Maybe you could even write a story of your own. If you're enjoying Tall Tales with Alex, please don't forget to tell your friends about it. It would be amazing to share these journeys with even more children. There are loads more adventures to go on, so don't forget to subscribe and follow to be the first to find out when a new story is ready to listen to. Parents, guardians, teachers, you can find me at Tall Tales Alex on Twitter and Tall Tales with Alex on Instagram. I'm already looking forward to our next adventure. See you then.